Britain is on the edge of a diplomatic earthquake. For decades, UK governments have carefully avoided pulling the trigger on recognizing Palestine. Now, in a move described as both bold and reckless, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is preparing to do exactly that. Within days, the announcement could come as early as Friday, breaking with Washington, defying Israel, and sending shockwaves through Parliament. But the question is, why now? And what does Starmer really stand to gain or lose from this historic gamble? For months, London's official line was clear. Recognition of Palestine would only come when it carried maximum weight in the peace process. That moment, Starmer now argues, has arrived. After Israel failed to deliver on a series of conditions, including a ceasefire in Gaza, the resumption of humanitarian aid, and halting annexations in the West Bank, the UK shifted gears. Ministers concluded Israel was never likely to meet those demands, meaning recognition was less about substance and more about timing. By moving ahead this Friday, Britain positions itself as the first major Western power in years to formally recognize Palestine, a step supporters hail as overdue, and critics warn could set off a political firestorm. For Keir Starmer, this is more than foreign policy. It's a personal gamble. Standing at the dispatch box, he insisted the timing of Britain's recognition had nothing to do with Donald Trump's high-profile visit. Instead, he framed it as part of a broader roadmap, securing Israel's safety while finally giving Palestinians a viable state. But not everyone is convinced. Critics see the move as politically calculated, a way to silence growing unrest inside Labour, and to prove his government can act decisively on the world stage. Starmer knows he's walking a tightrope. Too soft and he looks weak. Too bold and he risks igniting fury at home and abroad. Donald Trump didn't hide his disapproval. At a press conference, the U.S. president admitted he disagreed with Britain's decision, but then quickly brushed it aside. Washington, now firmly opposed to a two-state solution, sees the UK's recognition as unhelpful but ultimately symbolic, unlikely to weaken Israel. Yet behind the scenes, reports suggest Trump is growing increasingly frustrated with Benjamin Netanyahu, angry at his refusal to agree a ceasefire, and even more rattled by Israel's bombing of Qatar last week. By downplaying the rift with Starmer, Trump avoids Israel's reaction is expected to be furious. Officials in Jerusalem are already framing Britain's move as a reward for Hamas and a betrayal of Israel's security. But Downing Street has been quick to counter. Recognition, they insist, applies only to a Palestinian state where Hamas is disarmed and plays no role in government. Starmer has gone further, branding Hamas terrorists as having no future in the region's leadership. Still, Israeli ministers argue the decision undermines their fight against extremism and emboldens their enemies. For Starmer, this means walking straight into a diplomatic storm, one that risks shattering trust with a long-standing ally. France lit the fuse. Just 4 days after Emmanuel Macron announced Paris would recognize Palestine, London shifted its stance. The timing was no coincidence. Starmer held back long enough to consult Trump during his Scotland visit, but the direction was clear. Britain was aligning itself with Europe, not Washington. French diplomats played a quiet but decisive role, urging the UK to act quickly before Israeli annexations made a two-state solution impossible. By following Macron's lead, Starmer signals a tilt back towards European partners, a dramatic break from the Brexit years, and a move that could reshape Britain's place in global diplomacy. On paper, Britain's recognition sounds dramatic. In practice, its impact is mostly symbolic. Legal advice given to ministers makes clear. This doesn't create new obligations to punish Israel, nor does it alter Britain's existing view that the occupation is unlawful. What it does do is send a powerful diplomatic message. On Monday, the Palestinian flag will be raised in London at what will become the official Palestinian embassy, an image certain to ripple worldwide. Supporters say symbolism matters, that it restores hope for self-determination. Critics argue it's hollow theater, offering gestures instead of solutions. Either way, the message is clear. Britain has chosen to take a side. Inside the Labour Party, the recognition announcement hasn't ended the debate. It's only intensified it. Left-wing MPs are already demanding tougher measures, from halting arms sales to Israel to cutting off trade links entirely. The language is getting sharper too, with more Labour members openly accusing Israel of genocide. a charge that piles fresh pressure on Starmer to go further than recognition alone. At the same time, pro-Israel voices within the not everyone in Britain is cheering this recognition. Critics argue it flatly breaches the Montevideo criteria, the international benchmark for statehood, which requires clear borders, a stable population, and a single functioning government. Palestine, they say, has none of these. To them, the move looks less like principled diplomacy and more like political theater, designed to appease Labour's left and keep pace with Macron. Some analysts even warn it could backfire, emboldening hardliners in Israel while raising false hopes among Palestinians. The question is unavoidable. Is this a genuine step toward peace, or just symbolism dressed as statesmanship? The next chapter comes fast. On Monday, the UN will host a conference on the two-state solution, an event Britain could have waited for, but deliberately didn't. By moving early, Starmer signals urgency, but also raises the stakes. If Israel presses ahead with annexations or continues blocking aid, calls inside Labour for harsher action will only grow louder. Some already whisper about sanctions, others about cutting military ties. Meanwhile, allies and rivals alike are watching to see if Britain's bold gesture sparks a wider domino effect across Europe. The big question now, has Starmer opened the door to real change, or to a crisis his government can't contain? Britain's decision to recognize Palestine marks a turning point, one that could define Starmer's premiership. Supporters hail it as moral leadership. Opponents see reckless symbolism that risks inflaming conflict and dividing allies. Either way, the UK has crossed a line that can't easily be walked back. Recognition may not bring peace overnight, but it reshapes Britain's place on the global stage and sets the tone for future battles at home. The world is watching closely. Will this gamble deliver hope or unleash consequences Starmer cannot control? Let us know what you think in the comments.